Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Immigrant Podcast. First of all, I'm grateful to God for the opportunity to do this again. And I'm thankful to you too for your support, for tuning in every time, for listening and sharing this podcast. My name is Paul Adeyeye, and I'm excited to be your host again today. Now, today is one episode that I'm really excited about. I have a special guest on the show. And in my experience, I relate with a lot of small business owners in my community. And when they start out their business, they have a lot of challenges. Like they need to sell, they need to manage their operations, they need to do a lot of things. If you are listening to me right now and you're probably an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, or you know someone in your circle that is a business owner, this is an episode you want to listen to. My guest is Fope Nkwocha, popularly known as Fopsy. She's a marketing consultant. She's a business coach, helping people in Canada and across the globe to sell, giving them tips and coaching small business owner on how to take their business to the next level. So I'm really excited to have Fopsy on the Thriving Immigrant podcast. Join me in welcoming Fope to the Thriving Immigrant podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul.
Thank you. Okay, so I wish I had drum to roll. I'm excited about this. I'm really excited about this conversation because I see what you are doing, and when I come across people who are really passionate about sales and marketing, especially women, it fascinates me. And I'm like, okay, I love this kind of energy because to be honest, when you set up a business, your primary goal is to make money.
Yes.
And making money, there are different ways to make money in your business. But the most sustainable way to make money is by getting loyal paid clients.
Mm-hmm.
And they keep coming back. And the only way you can get those clients is by selling, or whatever name you want to call it. Let them come and pay for your service. So, and that's why I'm really excited about this conversation. But my first question to you would be, do you mind telling us about your immigration journey? How did you find yourself in Canada?
Of course. So thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I've been listening to try to understand the vibe of it, and I just love being here. Like you're saying, if you set up a business, your goal is to make money. So I like that we're having that conversation because some of the shifts I am making at the moment per se is also to help us focus on money making priorities so that you're not doing all the things in the business that are just busy work as opposed to things that actually move the needle. But I think we'll get there later. My immigration story is I came to Canada after secondary school. So secondary school in Nigeria is high school here. And so I came to school, but I think my parents were already trying to immigrate to Canada. So they kind of sent me ahead of them so that I wouldn't start school in Nigeria and then have to stop halfway. And, all that transitioning is just not ideal. So I came here at 16. I did a year of CIC. CIC is Columbia International College. It's a private school. So I went to that for 1 year, even though I was technically done high school. I just used it as like a bridging year from Nigeria to Canada. And then after that, I went to university. My parents came along the line, so I was no longer by myself. And then I actually switched to PR because I was still a dependent under them. So my journey is not chaotic in any way. I did not struggle to get PR. I just came as a child under my parents eventually. Then did my master's. I've been here ever since, which was 14 years ago. So I've been in Canada for a minute.
Wow. I love the way you ended your introduction, like you've been in Canada for a minute.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't know you've been here for quite a while, and it's quite interesting. So there are a lot of things we're not be able to relate with when it comes to the typical immigration journey in Canada. I think you enjoy some privileges. Do you agree?
Yes and no, because
Okay.
so I mean, I wasn't too young that I just like breezed through. So when I came, I was still an international student. So I still navigated trying to get into university through like it wasn't like I had done all my years here and had all the volunteer hours or whatever. So I was applying as an international student. In fact, my first job in Canada was helping my school at the time understand the path of international students who were already in Canada, which are people like me that had spent a year in Canada but were still on a study permit. So they were not applying from their home countries. So I spent a lot of time understanding international students. In the yes part of the answer, yes, as in yes, I have some privileges because I switched to PR pretty quickly. I did not have to like wonder about, okay, will I be able to stay in the country or things like that. Sometimes my husband teases me that I didn't work hard enough for my Canadian passport because, yeah. And there was a while when we were married and he still had his Nigerian one, and I used to tease him all the time that I'll see you on the other side because you know how Canadians have priority access to things. So
Yeah.
he will always get randomly selected for checks, and I'm like, so I see the privilege in that sense. But I also, because my parents then moved here as older adults, and it's a different immigration journey doing it in your 50s versus in your 30s because you've established a whole life abroad. So I also got to experience maybe secondhand racism, some of the things that they were dealing with at work, in places, and you could just tell that this is just ageism and racism mixed together. And so I have that. Well, it's not my lived experience, but I experienced it as somebody that worked with them. So yes, I've had privileges, but I also very much feel like an immigrant. Before I used to say that I hadn't really experienced racism in Canada, but now I just realized that it's just because Canadians are covert in their ways. They are not blatantly racist. They're like they go under ways. Anyway, so I have some experience, but I also have some privileges. And I'm coming up on having spent almost as much time in Nigeria as in Canada. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Right. So it's interesting. And of course, I agree that you must have had some unique challenges, especially coming at that, should I call it a tender age, and you were sent there before your parents. Chances
Mm.
are you probably went through some challenges that most of us cannot relate to because, of course, you're an adult, but it's, I can just imagine some challenges that you probably must have gone through. But I don't want you to speak about that. But I think that maybe I might need to invite your parents because I really want to hear from them how life was coming here at that particular age because everybody has a unique immigration journey.
Yeah.
So, but that's good. Okay,
Yeah.
now it's good to know. Right. So you founded Small and Thriving, and I must admit that I love what you are doing,
Oh,
and I
thank
love
you.
yes, I love what you are doing. I love how you are really helping small business owner in the community. And the thing about the average immigrant is they are very resilient and they
Yes.
are very ambitious. So, of course, you have to be an ambitious person to have found yourself in Canada as an immigrant. So,
To leave all the things you know
to
and
leave
come.
all the things you know and
Yeah.
come here. So for you trying to help them and giving them some sales and marketing skills and knowledge, and knowing that you've done a lot of things in your professional space, I understand that you worked with Google at a time.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about what motivated you to start Small and Thriving Community?
Sure. So I've been working now for a little over 10 years, and I've had the privilege of working in both the public sector and private sector. And when I was in public sector, I was always itching to do more. So I was always like wanting, I felt like I had more capacity. So I tried to sell flowers one time. It did not work out. Then I did gift boxing. So I started to sell gift boxes and mostly to corporate clients. It worked, but then it was requiring so much of my physical energy. And like I still had a 9 to 5, so it was a bit of a struggle at the time. And then, but thankfully, all of that, as well as working with my husband in Image Studio, his audiovisual design and graphic design studio, I also started to work with him to design websites so that when people came to design logos with him, if they didn't have a website, we could then work together. So that was cool. So I had ventured into entrepreneurship, selling physical products, digital products. And that experience actually helped me when I was going to get into Google because I worked as a product marketing manager leading small business. So my experience having a small business was tangible and useful in like positioning me for the role. So I found that, well, even if your small business isn't like the biggest money maker, the experience you have from it is still valuable in dealing with people, in experiencing different things. But after Google, I worked again, senior product marketing manager, but I just felt like all the stuff I learned in Google, what if I could do it by myself, like helping businesses get more digital, use more of the tools that are available, do things that better serve their customers, like little things like having a website so that people can know where to find your stuff and so that it's a smoother buying process for people, or bigger things like maybe don't only focus on the one-off sale, but like think about the whole customer lifetime value and how you can keep them coming back. So I had all these ideas of like how to educate small businesses, but in doing it now for a year, so that was kind of the inspiration of like, how I got into it. I just thought I have the knowledge, why not share it? And I know how to reach people online. And it wasn't just online, it was also like I'd spoken at a couple communities that gathered small businesses, women entrepreneurs. So it was going well. I had started to build a reputation as a speaker as well, which I still do, which is very great. But I'm also now discovering just the value of um, not only listening to what I think people need, but what people have expressed a need for and what they are paying for. Because if this is going to be a business, it's not just important that you enjoy it, it's also important that people see the need for it and they are paying for it. And so instead of just like focusing generally on small businesses, I'm now like focusing on coaching service providers and coaches on like focusing on their money making priorities. What is actually going to make you money? Because everybody is interested in finding more clients, growing their business. Everything else, they feel like that will take care of itself. Now, I find that when I'm able to focus on the things I know people want, in the container of coaching, we'll talk about all those other things that I know are important. But on the surface level, people don't care about all these extra things. Oh, how do I serve my customers better? Like, so I have learned that now by experience that listen to what the data is telling you, listen to what the people are doing, not just what they're saying. Some people say, oh, marketing is important to me. I want to do this better. But okay, why have you not done it in the last 3 years? So all of that has been a very interesting experience, just learning by doing. And it's just that wonderful thing that like there's ideas you might have, but until you really go and act on it and see what worked or didn't work, sometimes you don't know. But yeah, that has been my journey so far.
Wow, beautiful journey, and thank you so much for sharing that. I love everything that you said, but the thing you mentioned, there are a lot of things I would like to ask you from this last
Of course.
conversation. So first of all, it will be when you started selling flowers, did you see yourself like an entrepreneur, or were you just hungry to do something different?
I was just hungry to do something different. This is literally, so don't be like me. Do some market research and do everything. I think the way that thing started was literally my husband came one day. I was like, "Papa, what can you do?" As in, I said, I don't know. I don't know what I can do. I said, I made my wedding flowers. I said, okay, that's
Okay, that's it. Let's sell flowers.
maybe other people will want it. And my reason for doing my wedding flowers was because I didn't want to. I think I got married on a Sunday, and it was a public holiday, or maybe close to a public holiday, and people were going to give me a hard time about delivery on a Sunday or whatever. And I was like, isn't no flower like so? And I didn't even want necessarily fresh flowers, so got flowers that looked like they were not plastic looking. They looked like real flowers. Put them together, but they were not cheaper per se, because if you want it to look good, it's not going to be that much cheaper. So I hadn't really thought about like the logistics of the price, who really wants them. And brides are picky. So brides actually don't mind paying for expensive fresh flowers on their wedding day. I saw a bit of a demand for it on Etsy. So I said I would do that. And yeah, it didn't quite go as planned, but I learned from it. And here I am. Yeah, that's my flower story.
Okay, good, interesting story. So how did it feel like working for Google?
Oh, like a dream come true, of course, like the Google. It was really like a really great opportunity to do important work, to have that kind of brand on your resume, to work with really smart people, to enjoy all their free perks and food and whatever. I felt like people respected me a little more. Yeah, working at Google. I don't know. So that was there. And it felt like the equivalent of our parent oil companies, Chevron, Shell, like it's the fan companies. But yeah, it was really great. And I think it's still an experience that exposed me to some really awesome people. So I'm grateful for it. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Right. So loving your story so far. Okay. So you mentioned that you learned a lot in Google that you are now using for your small businesses, or for your business, like coaching small businesses.
Mhm.
So my question would be, I know you are big on digital marketing, of course. having been a product manager, where do you see digital marketing in businesses in the future, like in the nearest future? How big? I'm trying to let me re-ask the question. So,
Okay.
how important do you think digital marketing will become for businesses in the nearest future or even right now?
So I think that digital marketing is an important part of business, but um, maybe I'm not sure what the stats would be, but like I think it would be more like one of the key touch points. So it might be that they still buy from you in person. Say I was listening to your interview with the couple that is a realtor and a mortgage advisor together, like the one of them does one of the things. And the person might end up calling you, right? Like so now maybe if I call them on the phone, they might think, oh, this person just found my number and called me, not knowing that I had listened to an interview with them on your podcast. And that is a form of digital marketing because they don't know me, but I've heard about them through a means of digital advertising. So you might not realize the many touch points that people need to find you. And so digital marketing will play a role in being one of the touch points to help people deepen their research. And depending on what kind of product or service you sell, if it's a low ticket thing, like maybe, a phone case, maybe I'm just going to Google it on Amazon and get it, right? Or go to my local store as I'm buying my phone and get it. And maybe you don't need as much drama, but even that Amazon is not online, right? Or maybe I go in store and I don't find the version I want. And they say, oh, if you go online, you can find different types and it's free delivery. And then I get it, right? So it's another selling platform, a channel in that case. So I think that it's okay, let me finish my turn. Start with high ticket versus low ticket. So for small things like that, maybe it doesn't matter as much. But for I think bigger purchases, like choosing somebody as your coach, choosing somebody as your realtor or whatever, people want to research you a little bit and find out who you are, how you think, whether they can trust you, whether other people have used you, your reviews, and all of that. And so I think it's particularly then important for them to be able to do independent research and for you to have enough of assets on the internet that they can find on their own time without you sitting in front of them in a high pressure sales scenario to convince them. Like they want to feel like they have the independence to make that decision. So it's almost like it's important because it's you having assets that work for you. However, the in-person and people-to-people element will still be important as well because um, maybe I do all that research and I finally come to you and you don't treat me nicely, then it kind of ends there, or even worse, I then go leave a negative review. So I think digital marketing, it will be continually important as a competitive edge because if other people that are your competitors are there and you're not, then it means that you don't even stand a chance. But for other people who don't think it's important, you might not know how it's contributing. So you might not know that the reason why I Googled your company and went to your website is because I actually saw you on social media last week. And now I know that you do this thing I do. So it's that if you don't take it seriously, you are limiting the audience you're able to reach, and you are limiting how well you're able to sell people on you before they meet you, because it's people sell themselves on you when they have experienced you. So I think that's kind of how I see it working. It's very intertwined in our lives. How many days, like hours, are you spending on your phone, your computer? So you're getting sold to a different point in time without the pressure, and that's also something. I think I said a lot, so something along those lines.
Right, right. I think you said a whole lot, and I agree with everything you said. But I'm just going to share my own experience about digital marketing. I think digital marketing is a very powerful tool right now that regardless of maybe high ticket or low ticket,
Yeah.
is going to make an impact in your business. And I know a lot of people that I work with, some of them are introverts and they just don't know how to strike conversations. Like,
Mm,
but you see them doing amazingly well online, getting
mhm.
leads from their online
Mm.
activities. So I feel like digital marketing is a good lead generator.
And it levels the playing ground because
Lev
you don't have to be, yeah, in
exactly.
front of people. Yeah.
Exactly, because depending on what you sell, there are even some transactions that can be completed from the lead
End to end.
generation phase, end to
Yes.
end,
Yeah.
without you having to interact with the client. So that's an example from my hand,
I
but
have two stories when you're done. I'm just like, yeah.
okay, yes, you can go on and share your stories.
Okay, so two of them. One of them is during the pandemic. So one of the key things I did at Google was leading our Shop Here Powered by Google program, which was helping Canadian small businesses um, come online, because during the pandemic we were sell online meant that people were making money for weeks, months, and so it was just transitioning businesses online. And one of the businesses that I think I saw a story about was this that just it shows the impact of how digital marketing can change the game. So see, this woman used to sell pasta making classes, like a grandmother. I don't know if you've not found them on Instagram, but there's this genre of pasta making grandmas in Italy. And so she used to do in-person classes. And people will come and experience it, because when you travel, you also want to do something with the locals. And she was able to turn that into a course during the pandemic. Now able to teach that to anybody at any time. It's almost like a passive income tool right now. Like you don't have to only wait for people to come in person to buy from you. And that was the one of like turning something that was physical into that. The other story has flown out of my head and I'm not sure where it went, but I hope I'll remember it soon. Oh my goodness. I can't remember, but if I remember later, I'll bring it back. But just trying to say that, like, okay, yes, I remember. Thank you. Another genre I've seen is Nigerians in Nigeria selling to all of us Nigerians that have disappeared to the diaspora. So I have seen this thing where they are shipping snails, bala, stockfish, and like so they'll come and with this bag, like the content is just them packaging it, saying, "Oh, this is the $100,000 delivery going to Toronto, Canada. This is 50,000 snail. This is 10,000 crayfish." And because they're showing you and you're here missing home, you're like, ah, maybe we should do a package from Nigeria. There you go, you inquire, and they'll not put a video of the person in Toronto receiving it. So to show that it's real and they're not going to scam you. And so that entire business is just online. Like it came to me when you said end to end. The finding leads, the getting the product is like an entirely predominant process online. And how would you have found somebody in Akure, not even like
Not
Lagos or
even
Port Harcourt
Lagos.
or Abuja or one of those big places. So they're doing it from wherever they are. So I think it came to me when we're talking about leveling the playing ground, right? Like using internet where all of us are playing to make serious money. So it's important and it's almost free these days, maybe data, whatever you have to pay. So it just makes sense to, instead of just sitting in front of Netflix, sit in front of Netflix and be doing your business as well. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those stories. And I can relate with the last story you shared because for me, I got some items from Nigeria, not food items. In
Okay.
fact, I got a pair of shoes.
Okay.
Somebody posted a picture on Instagram
Yeah.
and the shoe was just so nice. I'm like, this shoe is on point. And the guy was like, oh, I've had these shoes for like maybe 6, 7 years, even before I moved to Canada.
Wow.
Yeah, this guy he mentioned the guy. So I contacted him on Instagram, then asked for my shoe size. I gave him the size. Then we started talking and the transaction was completed. But what I found most interesting to me was that guy was actually in Togo.
Wow.
So when we were talking and it was like, oh, the exchange rate is so bad. And now I have to first of all send these shoes to Lagos. I said, guy, where exactly are you? He said he's in Lome. I said, wow.
Wow.
So for me, I believe strongly that for people living in, I'm trying to be careful with the word, maybe developing
Developing countries,
countries,
yes.
you have no excuse not to leverage the powerful tool of digital marketing because it brings your business or your services to anywhere in the world and it
Yeah.
expands your customer base.
Yeah.
Now, when I snapped a picture with those shoes,
Mhm.
other people have contacted me
Wow.
asking that, oh, love this shoe.
In fact, I'm interested now because I want to,
You want
anyways.
to get some
Yeah.
shoes?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's how we can support businesses. Like
Yeah.
imagine someone far in Togo, even
I
the
know.
person probably have not even left shores of Togo, but his
Yeah.
product is now being used in
Incredible.
Canada and who
Yeah.
knows where that product, where else that product can go to. Like somebody in the US can see those shoes.
Yeah.
In fact, the last person that commented on the shoes was in the US.
Wow.
Like, right. So
The other thing is that they don't then have to only deal with people that are like what I'm trying to say is they can benefit from the stronger currency here, right? Like
exactly.
that makes it so much easier for us to like for them to make significant income. So very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because the buying power is low in that part of the world right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
If if somebody's going to buy a shoe worth $100,000, you need to eat
Like
well. hundred
yeah.
thousand naira rather.
Naira. So which
You
is
need
just
to eat well,
$100.
which
Yeah.
exactly. So that's it. Oh, nice conversation. So now
Yeah.
you've been working with small businesses for quite a while, and you mentioned something that I found very interesting. You
Yeah.
said you've learned about not giving what you think your customers want,
Mm.
but giving them what they need and they're ready to pay for. And I think that's very powerful. So I always tell people because when I meet people that are interested in businesses, they're like, I've always had this passion for years.
Yeah.
And I just like imagine if you're passionate about flowers. I'm sorry to say it, but
I know.
selling flowers may not be able to pay your bills at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
And people might like it. If someone buys flower from you, maybe they buy another 6 months or 1 year. How
Yeah.
many how many flowers do you have to sell to pay your bill? So do you want to talk more about some of the obstacles that small business owners face when they're trying to start up their own businesses?
I think that let me even start from where you talked to stop with the flowers. So maybe the problem is trying to sell flowers to other people that were like me, trying to get married and live in a bouquet. So first of all, I have to find somebody that wants faux flowers, fake flowers, which is not that many. Somebody that is willing to spend the same amount of money as fake flowers, as real flowers. Almost like, okay, if I'm going to spend all this money, why don't I go to real flowers? Whereas you don't have to only sell to customers, you can sell to other businesses. Maybe instead I go and work with decorators that are going to decorate a whole giant hall and they don't want real flowers because they want to be able to reuse it. Maybe instead I work with there are these people that do forever flowers. So like on Valentine's Day, you want those flowers that are preserved and don't spoil. Maybe I think about other ways. And so it's also like remembering that you have to find the most profitable segment of the market that makes sense for you to target and not always assuming that it has to be your own people, not your own people as in like the people you know that will make this business work, like thinking like this is a business. A business is really just exchanging value, right? So find the people that this is valuable to and go meet them. And what some of the things, so your question was really like, what are some, please ask that question again because I feel like I lost it.
Yeah, so what are some obstacles that you think small business owners, like common obstacles that they face when they're trying to start their businesses?
Okay, I'll start, I will streamline it further into what are some obstacles that immigrant small business owners you tend to face. So a lot of us are doing it as a side hustle, which I understand because in this country, for many things, mortgage approval, you need a job. And then afterwards, nobody really cares what you do for a living. And it makes sense to have something extra because if a wave of layoffs flies, if something small, like I say to my husband, small breeze will touch these companies and boom, they've let 1,000, 20,000 people go. So it makes sense to have your own thing. But I feel like sometimes we then start to treat those businesses like side, like you don't treat it like a business. You treat it like just something small. And that energy is reflected in how much the business can thrive, right? Like, so it's almost like even if it's a side hustle, like still give it the energy of a full-on business. Look at what people that are succeeding in that area. Where are they being featured? Are there trade shows in your area? What's like the highest level you can get to in this thing, like, and aim for that. So I have a podcast, Dear Fopsy, that I have not updated in a second, but it's really great with stories of resilience. And one person I interviewed recently, she makes bread. You probably must have eaten her agege bread even. They make her and her husband make bread and they have it's such a low-key business. They don't really have as much of an Instagram presence, but they are in all the African stores because that is their real customer who then serves us. And so like thinking like that, right? And how like what are the channels that I can use to support my work? So it doesn't all have to be directly to consumers is one first thing. Other obstacles are just knowledge. It's really hard when you come to a new country and not only have you lost like your sense of familiarity, but you also don't have as much network. Somebody to even tell you, oh, this is how you go through things. But the other side of that is that we live in a country now in Canada where information is fairly accessible on the internet. So like it's not like you have to know somebody who knows somebody for everything. There are some things that is still helpful to know people for. So like maybe a certain like Niger foodie who actually I also interviewed, and I don't know why I have not released the episodes, but they're coming. And she started like a whole company that allows you to, she makes like makes it allows you to make jollof rice quicker because she makes the sauces in advance. So the machinery needed for that. So there's a lot of like you don't know people at the beginning, but there are a lot of programs that also want to help you as a small business develop. So I know that our mutual friend, Dr. Empreneur, Dr. Tinuke, there we go. I was like, Dr. Freder, she does information about grants. So there's a lot of programs that are there to help you, grants to give you money, programs to connect you with advisors. And like knowing that you don't have to do it alone is an obstacle for a lot of people because you don't know anything at the beginning. And the other thing is putting an overemphasis on social media. Sometimes I find that like I'm like, okay, like we were talking at the beginning where you said you weren't even understanding the point of Instagram. I think sometimes you forget that like, there's a big world doing business outside of the Instagram. So like going to in-person networks, being known in your local community for something can be really powerful. And then also just knowing when it's time to scale, ask for help, apply for loans, which is scary sometimes, and to do things. And a mix of combining that, knowing when it's also time to take the leap and leave your job if possible, but other times then when it's time to hire help so that you don't have to leave the cushiness of a job. There's a lot of obstacles, but most of them are surmountable, if that's the right word, you can overcome them if you get the right information, if you're in a community of other people, and that we don't all have to do the same business. Not everybody has to be selling food, being a realtor, like there are other things to do. And so just like expanding your mind so that you're not being over concerned with competition. Like that's not really the only thing that there is. So there's a lot of things, but ultimately there are knowledge fixes a lot of them. And so stepping out of your circle is also important. A lot of us congregate with each other, which is great for safety, but it also means that there's limits to the stuff we know because people that have been here forever probably have some deep-seated connections that we can tap into as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said a whole lot of powerful things, and I think this your conclusion is very powerful. Like you just talked about we congregating together for safety, which is actually true, but at the same time we miss out on some opportunities because you are just in your comfort zone, and
Yeah.
maybe the best person in your community is probably doing way worse
Yeah.
if you compare the person to other people in other communities. So I think that's a very good point. So thank you for sharing that.
I'll add one thing. One thing you can also do is so for me, 1 year, my husband was like, okay, we want to know more people outside church and work. Like, how can we expand our network? And one way was volunteering with board of like to join a board as a director because it's volunteer, it's not like every day, but it also increases your network. And that's really good. So it's one tangible way that you can do it. Volunteering in your community, knowing your neighbors, if there's a neighborhood association, volunteering there as well. Like I recently joined the board of the YWCA. So like stuff like that, just going outside your circle to know more people where possible. Yeah.
Thank you so much for everything you've said. I'm just going to ask you one more question. Like, if someone is coming to you now and is maybe at the ideation stage, is like,
Mhm.
I want to start a business. I know this, I know that, and I just want to try. What would be your advice to the person? Just imagine that person is an immigrant, like
Yeah.
maybe the person has been here for like 3 to 5 years and is trying to start out a new business. What
Yeah.
would be your advice to that person?
So this is great timing because I literally just was sitting yesterday thinking about where do I want to go next? And it's focus on your money-making priorities would be my piece of advice. And this is how I mean it. So I've spoken with a couple of people recently, different kinds of businesses. One person wants to start becoming a content creator for like corporate businesses. Another person is selling air fresheners to car washes. And yet another person is actually an established gift store business that is trying to take more advantage of digital marketing. But everybody is doing all the things they think they should be doing, like they're scattered in their activities. And I'm like, it's not everything that you need to be doing at this time because like there are a few critical activities that actually move the needle for your business, that actually make you money. For some of you, it might be for the air freshener business, for example, it's going to find car washes and wholesalers that are buying from them. You don't need a website at this point in time. Like go to, because you want to sell wholesale, like directly focusing on your money making priorities. And that's really what I'm actually focused on right now. I sit down with people, focus, find out what are you trying to do with this business? Who are you trying to target? Okay, what are your competitors doing? How do you want to be different? And what are the 1 to 3 priorities that you can focus on in this quarter that we can double down on? Not just that we'll say this is the goal, but we'll break that down into what are the specific actions that we know that if you do these 3 things, maybe every Saturday you must go to 5 car washes to pitch your services. That could be an example. If you do it, we'll get to the goal that we're trying to get to. The other person, maybe it's pitching yourself, cold pitching that you're afraid of. Maybe it's writing those proposals. So like the things that you're shying away from are the things that really will move the needle on your business, as opposed to all these nice to do content. I'm not against content, it's beautiful, or maybe in your own services, emails, so like making more, selling more to your audience that you already have over the years. So I would say it's focus on your money making priorities. There are a lot of things you can do in the business and a lot of things that take up your energy, managing people if you have employees, dealing with your own, because for many people, you have a family, you have a full-time job, and this business is this other thing. So to best maximize that energy that you have and make sure that you're really focusing on what is bringing in the money, because we said we're focusing on making money. And so find and focus on your money making priorities. And if you're struggling with that and staying accountable with those, then you should talk to me. We should have a call. Find me around the internet at fopsy.ca, and then we can have a call. But honestly, I think that's one of the things that is just important. Focus on what is making you money. Yeah.
Beautiful. This is a very good spot to stop because I love that focus on money making priorities, which
Yeah.
is like the way I started the conversation. Like if you start a business, your primary goal is to make money. And there are a lot of ways to do it, but the best ways to do it, or let me say the best way to do it is to identify your money making priorities and focus on it. So
maybe that's finding referral partners for you. Maybe that is networking more, but find them. They don't have to be a lot and focus on them. Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you so much, Popsy, for coming. Lastly, my last question would be, what is the most powerful piece of advice that you've ever received?
So if you ask me this question at different times, it might change. But at this point in time, it's actually from the Bible. It's Proverbs 24, verse 16. And it's, though the righteous may fall 7 times, they rise again, but the wicked stumble when calamity strikes. I take this to mean if you try something and it fails, your life falls apart or whatever, if you did not do it in a callous way, you were righteous, pick yourself up and go again. It's like failure is not the end of the, pick yourself up and go again. And like, it's part of the journey. 7 times, like, you know how long that is. So like pick yourself up and try again. So people that really fall and everything scatters, maybe they were like, maybe you have, like, it's only saying that it's the wicked that stumble when calamity strikes. So when you fall, get the energy to find yourself and pick yourself up again and go again. It is failure. Don't make a monument of failure, right? It's an event. Learn from it and keep it moving. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's very powerful. And I love the fact that it's coming from the Bible. Thank you so much, Pope. How can people contact you?
Thank you. So I'm personally on Instagram at Foxy the Great. I also have a YouTube channel. I used to share a lot about relationships, and in my old life, even wrote a book about it called Situationship, How to Stop Breaking Your Own Heart. So I have a YouTube channel and Instagram at the name Foxy the Great. It's a great way to stay connected with me. But if you're looking for help with focusing on your money making priorities, or with just I'm not sure where my business is going and I need some help, for marketing consulting or as a business coach, or you want to have me as a speaker at your event, you can find me at fopsy.ca. Fopsy is FOPSY.ca, and there's a giant schedule a call button there. I also share small business tips at Small and Thriving on Instagram. So if you find me at Fopsy the Great, though, you'll find everything else. I'm almost always on Instagram, so that's a good place to start. I'd love to connect with you, and if you need help, book a call, and we'll take it up from there.
Thank you. Wow, this has been a very rich conversation, and I'm sure there's a lot more in you that you want to tell the audience. So we're going to look for another time to bring you on the Thriving Immigrant podcast. But thank you so much for what you are doing. Thank you for coming. And bye, everyone. Stay
Thank
thriving.
you.